Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw, and this is my latest book, Sew Eco-Friendly. It's full of 25 sewing projects that will help you to live more sustainably. So let me show you some of the projects in here, and then we're going to make one of the projects as well. So the whole idea is to be able to replace some of the items that you normally think of as single use, like for instance the gift bags and wraps and wipes. There's lots of information about sustainable fabrics as well, so wherever I can I've been using upcycled or recycled fabrics, repurposed items, some of the useful stitches here, so lots of tips and techniques. And then we're on to things like the wax sandwich wraps and pouches. There's bath sponges and face wipes and lots of ideas for you going forward as well. So this is a hemp tote bag, but I've actually coloured it with natural dyes. This is from pear leaves and turmeric. So there's some nice little ideas in here for you that you can use with other projects as well. And of course, once you've made the projects, you've got a knowledge of the fabric choices and different techniques that you can move on to other projects as well. So that's a baby wipe bag, a bottle bag, even from your local supermarket. They can be cardboard, so these are things that you can use again and again. Little Christmas stockings, but these have got gathered tops, so they're gift bags. So no more gift wrap and tape to tape them up. I'm going to make the grocery bag for you shortly with cork and seeded cotton. This is actually recycled plastic bottle denim I used on the one in the book. Some ideas for fabric gift wrap, so again gift wrap that is part of the gift that you can use again and again. More gift cubes and bags, so for all occasions. I thought this one was quite handy as well. It's a repair kit. If you're repairing the items that you have, you're not throwing them away is the idea. And we've got some cleaning solutions in there as well. Let's move on to bowl covers instead of cling film. An apron. Now, why an apron in a Sew Eco book? You may well ask. Well, if you're keeping your clothes clean, you're not going to be washing them so often, so that saves on detergent is my thinking there. There's some little hints and tips for the wipes as well, and some little recipes for tumble dryer sheets and face wipes and baby wipes and things like that. That bag folds away, so you've always got one with you. Here we have, where are you? A cork lunch bag. Cork is a wonderful fabric to sew with, and it's one of the most sustainable fabrics on the planet as well. How about keeping a cutlery roll in your bag so that you've always got your knife, fork and spoon handy for when you have takeaways, instead of picking up plastic straws and cutlery from service stations. And of course we've got a couple of face coverings and a pouch to keep them in as well. All of the measurements are in here. There's only one template, which is for the stocking, so it's very simple to understand, step-by-step instructions with as many projects and as many photos as I can possibly fit into the book. It says on the back, sew more, waste less, and that's the whole idea. So I think it's just as doing our little bit. If everybody does their little bit, then we can make a big difference at the end of the day. And this book is simple and easy ways of you making that little bit of a difference. Now I'm going to make up the large shopping bag. So I think it's about time we got sewing. I'm going to make the top part of my bag from unbleached seeded cotton, and the bottom of my bag is going to be in cork. Cork, as I said previously, is a wonderful fabric to work with. It's waterproof, so you can wipe it clean, and that makes it an ideal fabric to use on the base of a bag, because this is a shopping tote, so it's going to be put down on the floor at some point, and I can simply just wipe this clean. So the two pieces I've cut out here measure 17 inches across this way. The top section is 9 inches this way, and the bottom section is 7 inches in this direction. Now my bag here, I actually used denim, this is the denim that was recycled bottles for the handles, but this time I'm going to use cork because I think that would match nicely with the base of the bag. And then I'm using the unbleached seeded cotton again for the lining. For the lining you could use something like calico or muslin. That really doesn't make an awful lot of difference, just something that hasn't got dyes in it and is affordable, basically, is what we're going to want for it. So the first thing I need to do is to sew the bottom pieces to the top pieces of the bag right sides together. So let's start with these two here. Now with sewing with cork, it's really simple. It has a fabric backing and it's coated. So you shouldn't need any special foot on your sewing machine, any special needle. A denim needle may help if you've got very thick fabrics. So we are going to put some fusible fleece on the wrong side of this. So that may help. And you can iron from the back of this, but not from the top. We'll do the same with the second two pieces. So again, right sides together. I'm not going to pin. Probably with cork it's better to use fabric clips instead of pins. So just lining up these raw edges together. And I'm using about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm just finger creasing the seam open, like so. Again, if you're going to iron from the wrong side. Cork doesn't like it if you put too much heat on the top of it. And then I'm going to fuse my fleece to the wrong side. Now normally fleece would be fused from the fabric side, but as I was saying, cork doesn't really like too much heat. So I'm going to start off, just put my pad under here. Normally have this at the big ironing board because it's quite a large item. So I can start off ironing from the front through my cotton fabric, and I'm using a Vliseline H640, which actually likes lots of steam. So I'm ironing just the cotton side, not the cork, to keep that in place. I'm just going to trim that down to size a little bit now. So just cut away that excess. And then I'm going to turn this over and just use a blast of steam through the fleece to adhere this to the back. So don't try and glide the iron over this, it won't work too well because there's a lot of friction there. And remember, your cork is waterproof, so do beware of the steam coming back up again, because it won't travel through the cork. So just pad this up and down until it sticks. Then we can trim this back to the same size as the fabric. Don't worry if it's not 100% stuck all over, because this will be sewn into a seam, so it's not the end of the world. And then we'll repeat with the second piece. So now I have two pieces that look like this. So I'm going to top stitch just along the fabric side here because I think it looks nice. So I'm going to lengthen the stitch on my sewing machine. I'm going to go up to a 3 on here and stitch about 1/4 of an inch just above that seam. So keep your stitches nice and straight. Contrast colour would look good. But this not only helps to hold the layers of fabric together, I think a little bit of top stitching gives a nice professional look to your work as well. And across the second piece. Now at this point, if you wanted to add any applique, if you wanted to do maybe some cross hatch diagonal lines to quilt this, then you can do. If you wanted to add anything else basically to the bag, embellishment wise, then now's the time to do it right now before we start putting the bag together. I'm just going to put those pieces to one side for now and make up the straps. Now on your instructions, because I used the recycled bottle denim, I pressed these long pieces to the centre, and these are 4 inches wide by 25 inches long, and then press these long sides to the centre again, and then fold in half and press again. Obviously I'm not going to be pressing this because it's cork and it doesn't like it, so I'm simply going to fold mine and hold it in place with a few clips before I sew it. So you can kind of finger crease, it'll stay to a certain extent. There we go, and then I'm just going to top stitch along each side. So you should end up with a strap that's about 1 inch or 2.5 centimetres wide. So I've still got the long stitch on my sewing machine, and let's just stitch along both sides. And then we'll repeat with the second strap. So those are my 2 straps finished. Let's put those to one side for now, and we'll go back to our main fabrics, and I need to cut a 3.5 inch or 9 centimetre square from each one of these corners. That's quite a big square to cut, but it's going to mean that the bag is very square shaped. It makes it very boxy. So 3.5 inches here. And it doesn't really matter what you're marking this with, because it's going to be within the seam allowance. And you'll need to mark from the top, because it's going to be very difficult to mark on the back of it because you've got your fleece on there. So I'm just using a friction pen, but it could be a biro, it really doesn't matter. And then we'll cut out all of these shapes. You could save these little bits and make coasters out of them, they're big enough. And the same on this side. Then we'll attach the handles, and these are going to go facing downwards, and I'm going to line these up just with the edge of the corner that I've cut out here. Measurements are in the book, but it's basically lining it up against that cutout section. So I'll put a clip in the top of here. I don't know if you can hear those pigeons cooing outside. It's about halfway through June at the moment, and they're nesting, so they're singing away. Okay, and then same on this side. So I'm just going to line these 2 pieces up so I can see that they're in exactly the same place. Like so. And then I'm just going to stitch across the top to hold those in place before we put the rest of the bag together. Now we're going to use one of these pieces to cut out 2 lining pieces. So just to exactly the same size. If you have a rotary cutter, ruler and mat, you'll probably find that's the easiest way to cut straight lines like this. I don't have mine here, so I'm just going to use scissors for now. And you know, this makes a really nice sturdy bag as well. Personally, I mean, it isn't the biggest bag, but I'd rather carry lots of smaller ones than one big one. I find that a lot easier. And 2 small bags means I'm a lot more balanced than one big bag. So certainly what you'd find in an average British carrier bag kind of size, you can fit into here very easily. And because I've used the H640 or fusible fleece, that also means that it squashes down quite well. So if I'm leaving this in the boot of the car, or putting lots of bags inside another bag, it's not so firm that it's really rigid. So snip across here. But that's the idea with the book, things that you can use over and over again. So even if you don't have caught fabric or recycled denim or unbleached cotton, if you can use some fabric that you've already got so that you're not throwing it away, that's good. And if you're making things that are not single purpose, so you're going to keep them and use them over and over and over and over again, then of course that's good as well, isn't it? The less things we can put in the bin these days, the better. Let's sew together the top sections here. So this is a really, really simple bag, but I'm kind of thinking you're going to want to make a few. So lining and outer bag, right sides together, and I'm just going to simply sew straight across the top. So I'll just stick a few pins in there to hold it in place. If you've lengthened the stitch on your sewing machine to top stitch, then remember to put it back to the regular stitch before you start sewing. And I'm using quite a small stitch. It's a 2.2, which is the default stitch on my sewing machine, but a smaller stitch is a stronger stitch. Now you could reverse back over the handles a couple of times to strengthen those if you wish. And we want this to be a really good sturdy bag. Oops. So that's how we're looking, and then we'll do the same with the second piece. Then we're going to open out the 2 sections and place them right sides together. And we're going to sew all the way around, but not the cut out corners, all across the bottom, around the lining, but we'll need to leave a turning gap in the bottom here, quite a wide one, I think, across there. So just not these pieces here. And we want to match up the seams at the side, so that's where I'd like to start, or certainly where I'm going to pop a pin in. Just open out that seam. It doesn't really matter whether the seams are open or not, because this is going to be the top of the bag. So I'll just pop a pin in there. I want the seams to match because they really stand out if they don't. I know I say it a lot, but if you've got perfectly matching seams, nobody's going to notice. But if you've got wonky seams, then they'll stand out a mile. Doesn't really matter on a shopping bag, does it? Right, so I like to start at those, or at one of those points, so I know that my stitches line up. I'll sew all the way around. Now we're going to take these corners and pull them open like so. Line them up and sew straight across here. I like to squish the seams in opposite directions just to cut down on the bulk there. And the same on this side. So whichever direction the seam on the bottom is going in, keep it in the same way. And sew straight across. If you want to put a few pins or clips in there, then of course you can do. And then do just the same with the lining pieces. So pull this open, opposite directions, sew straight across. Then we're going to turn the whole thing through the hole that we left in the bottom of the bag, and now you'll realise whether the hole you left was big enough. So let's pull this all through. It will be a little crumpled, that's fine. Here we come. Let's just push up that square base. And on this side. And then there's the matter of the hole at the bottom of the lining. So you'll find if you pull each side of the gap away from each other, the edges of the fabric want to roll inwards. So let's encourage that. I'll just pop one pin in there. And then we're just going to machine sew straight across the opening here. Almost finished. We're going to tuck the lining inside the bag now. There you go. And I'm going to press it. So again, if your cork is crumpled, try and press it from the inside, not the outside. It won't melt, but it can kind of bubble and distort a little bit if you iron from the top. So I'm just going to pop my iron inside here, give it a bit of steam. And I'm pressing it so that the seam is right on the top, because I'm going to top stitch around here in just a second as well. A bit of steam in here. It's a lot easier when you've got your big ironing board for something like this. And just the final side here. Okay. So that's how we're looking. So it's very much a bucket bag kind of shape. I'm going to top stitch around the top. Now I don't have a free arm on my sewing machine, so I'll need to do that from the inside. I find that easier. If you do have a free arm, then now may be a good time to use it. So like before, I can take my stitch length larger, because it's only a top stitch, not a seam, and away we go. So I'll just snip that loose thread off here. And that is my shopping bag finished. So again, as you can see, plenty of room in there. I would go for a couple. The straps are long enough that if they're not too heavy, whatever you're carrying will go over your shoulder as well if you prefer to carry it that way. And of course, if you're going to make a few of them, they're an ideal size for storage, maybe hanging your crafty bits and bobs up on the back of the door maybe. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you enjoy making yours, and I hope you make lots of them. And I hope you find my So Eco-Friendly book helpful and useful. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.